is Candace, aka Picasso Baby, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create your very own safari sunset. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you so much for stopping back by to paint with me today. So as always, today we're going to be creating something super fun and super simple. And it's a special one because it was requested by my girl Kishana. And I hope you and your friends enjoy creating your very own safari sunsets. So before we get started, as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And turn on those post notifications so that you do not miss the next tutorial. So I'm going to go over everything that you need for today's painting. As always, I am working with a 16 by 20 inch canvas, but you can use the canvas size of your choice. You also want to make sure that you have a cup with cold water for your brushes. You want to make sure you have some napkins or a rag to dry them off on, some different size paint brushes, and then you also want to make sure that you have your paint. So I'm working with acrylic paint and I am using just a few colors today. I'm using bright red, chrome yellow, titanium white, and Mars black. So once you get everything, let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, we're going to be creating a safari sunset. So we're going to start out by laying out our sunset. So I'm going to start with my biggest brush. I have a bigger flat brush. And I am going to use a little bit of yellow paint for this part. So the first thing I want to do is divide my sky and my ground area. I don't want a whole lot of ground area, so I'm just going to go a few inches up and pull a line over. If you want more ground area, you can take the line up a bit more. It's completely up to you, but I want all of this to be my sky. And then from there, I want to create my sun because it's going to be setting. So I do want my sun to be at the bottom, and I'm not doing a full circle. I'm just doing a half circle. So I'm going to start from the edge here, and I'm going to pull a curved line all the way over. Now once you have that in, I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm actually going to mix up some orange to get the rest of my background filled in. Now if you have an orange that you would like to use, remember you can use your colors. Or if you would like to do a different color, maybe you want a blue background, maybe you want it to be more nighttime. It's up to you. This is your painting. But I'm going to be doing more of a sunset, so I want to make an orange. So right on my plate, I'm going to take a little bit of my red and I'm going to mix it with some of my yellow. Now keep in mind, if you are mixing up your orange, you want to make sure that you start out with more yellow than red, because the more red you use, the darker it will be. So you just add your red in slowly until you get the shade that you want. Now I'm going to divide this. So I'm going to pull a line going right across the top of the sun. And then I'm also going to pull a little line down closer to like the middle of the sun, and a little line over here as well. And I'm going to pull one more line right across the top here. So I'm doing that because I want my background to have more of like a gradient effect. So we're going to be doing a few different shades of orange. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up my orange and I'm going to add a little bit of white to my brush. This bottom area here under the line, I'm going to fill this in with this lighter orange. You see it's going to turn almost like a really light peach. And I'm not doing anything below the yellow line yet. Only above the yellow line, but below the first orange line. Same thing over here. It's not a whole lot of space over here, but you can still add a little bit on the edge there. Now, I'm going to move up. I'm not going to clean my brush off. I'm just going to pick up more of my orange. And I'm going to fill in the next section. Because again, we want this to kind of get darker as we go up to the top. If you get anything inside of your sun, don't freak out. You can paint right over it. So it's okay if you get anything inside of there. One thing you also want to make sure to do, when you're doing your orange with each layer, you want to make sure to overlap the last layer that you did just a little bit. So for example, over here, I start at the top of the line. I like to start at the top and work my way down. And I overlap the last color just a bit. And another thing I like to do when I'm blending out sunsets, and this is super important, do really nice long strokes. The longer your stroke is, the more blended and even everything will be. If you keep picking up your brush, it's gonna make a lot of marks. So try your best to do longer strokes. Now we wanna get a little bit darker. So now I'm gonna pick up my orange on one side, and I didn't wash my brush, and I'm picking up red on the other side. And I'm gonna work my way from the top down. And you see how that is just blending out on there together? That's exactly what you want. So work your way from the top of the line down to your last color and overlap it just a bit. So I'm going to take that, overlap on this side as well, so everything blends seamlessly. And you see how I'm just kind of going back, doing those longer strokes to get any marks off of there. I want everything to be very well blended. And I'm going down over that color. Now my last color, I'm not going to wash my brush, but this time I'm only picking up red, and I'm going to start right from the top and work my way down. Start from the top, work your way down, and make sure to overlap that last color. All right, we got a nice little sunset going there. Now this time I am going to wash my brush because I don't want these dark colors inside of my sun. So I am going to wash this out really good and dry it off. Now once you have a clean brush, we're going to go in and fill in our sun. For my sun, I am picking up yellow and white together, and I just want to get this entire thing filled in. So this is your time to kind of go back and re-round it as well. But one thing I do suggest is don't do your edge first. Get everything else inside of your sun filled in first. So everything else, I'm not getting near the edge just yet. I'm just getting everything else, the largest parts, filled in. And the reason I'm doing this is because once you get near the edge, you're going to pull some of your background color into the sun. And the reason that's going to happen is because your paint is still wet. So instead of you pulling it in now and it getting everywhere, we want to keep it around the edge. So now I'm going to go through and reline everything up. And you'll see how I'm kind of, as you do it, it's going to pull a little bit of that color in there. And if you feel like yours wasn't like perfectly curved, you can overlap your background a little bit. You can overlap the sky area a bit. But again, when you do that, it's gonna pull a little bit of your orange into your sun, and that's okay. You just want to try to keep it around the edge and make sure you're doing those longer strokes to really blend it out. Now, mine didn't pull a whole lot in, so I am going to actually add just a little bit in. I'm going to take a little bit of orange right from my plate. Taking a little bit of my orange. Let me wipe some of that off. You don't want a whole lot on there. And I'm just going to go around the edge of my sun, blending some orange on there. Now, if you do want to see orange in other parts of your sun, that is completely fine. Remember, this is your painting, so it doesn't have to look like mine or anybody else's. But I'm just taking a little bit of orange and kind of blending it around the edge. And remember, you want to do those nice long strokes to really get it blended. And all of these steps that we're doing, they all work best if your paint is still wet. So you want to try to really get through each step so that way the next step will blend in while the last step is still wet. But once you have that part, before we can add anything else, we have to let all of this dry. So all we're going to do is take a quick break. As always, you can take a quick drying break and let it dry on its own for about 10 to 15 minutes. Grab some drinks, grab some snacks, or if you don't feel like waiting, if you're a little bit impatient, you can grab a blow dryer and blow dry it on the cool setting for about 5 minutes or so, or until it's no longer shiny. That's how you know it is dry. And then we're going to start back on the next step in just a few.
One eternity later.
All right, now once your painting is dry, it's time to add on some details. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get my grass in, and I'm just going to be painting everything else at this point is going to be completely black because we want to give that kind of sunset silhouette look. If you would like to do yours in different colors, remember it's your painting. You can do whatever you like, but I'm going to be doing everything in black. So I'm going to go back to my largest brush. So you just want to make sure to wash that brush off and dry it really good. And then I am going to get everything at the bottom completely filled in. So I'm just filling everything in with black. All right, now for the next part, I'm not going to leave my grass just smooth like that. If you like it like that, you can. But I'm going to pull a few lines up to give it more of a grass look. So I'm not using my brush the wide, flat way. I'm using it on the edge. And I'm just going to quickly pull black up to make more of a grass look, going all the way across. And you don't want there to be any large gaps between these lines that you're pulling up. And if some is a little bit taller or shorter, that's completely fine. It doesn't have to be the same height all the way across. But you just want to get some nice grass going there. Fill that in a little more. Some taller pieces. And then from there, I am going to actually switch to my medium round brush because now I want to add in a few trees. So for the trees, I am just using this medium round brush and I'm still using just black paint. And I'm going to start out by just pulling up some lines to show me where my trees are going to go. So I want to do one here. I'm going to do a smaller one here too. Now, on each of those lines, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back at the top of the line. And as I go down, I'm going to start to move out just a bit so that my tree trunk is wider than the top of my tree. And then I'm going to fill it in. So you see how it's wider there, the top comes to more of a point. I'm going to do the same thing here. Move out just a bit and then fill it in. Almost like a little bit of a Christmas tree just to start out with. You want it to be a little bit taller and wider at the base. Same thing here. Now from there, I'm going to pull out branches. Now you can pull branches wherever you like. The only thing you want to make sure is that your branches are not as wide or as thick as your tree trunk, so the base of your tree. So for example, you can pull some out the top. I'm going to pull one kind of curving over there. You can pull some out the sides. You can pull branches from other branches. It's completely up to you how you do this part. But keep in mind, the more pressure you use on your brush, the thicker your branches are going to be. The less pressure you use, the thinner they'll be. So for example, I'm going to pull one here. And I'm pressing down just a bit so my branch is pretty thick, right? But if I just very lightly lift up off my brush, it's going to make it a little bit of a lighter or thinner line. I'm just going to pull a few out of this one here. And then we got one more over here. Now once you have as many trees and branches and things as you like, all I'm going to do, I'm not going to use my medium brush for this part. I'm going to go back to my biggest brush. So I'm going to dry that one off because I put it in my water cup. So I'm going to wash it and dry it off. And now I'm going to pick up black, but I'm not going to be painting the wide way. I'm going to use the edge of the brush. And what I'm going to do is near the branches, near the ends of the branches, I'm going to make little clusters of leaves. And I'm making that little texture or that little leaf effect by tapping the edge of my brush. So not the wide way, but the edge of it. I'm tapping it down to make little leaves. And you can do as much or as little of this as you like. I try not to keep it all like bunched up in one area. Like you see how it's spread out there? So for example, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to just make a really big little circle of it. Now, if you like it like that, you definitely can. Remember, this is your painting. But I like to just spread it out a bit and not have it as even, just so that it looks a little more realistic. Same thing, I'm going to put a little bit over here. Even though the branch is going off to the edge of the canvas, I'm still going to put a little bit over here. And I'm going to fill in some on these trees as well. Now these two branches kind of overlap a bit, so I'm just going to allow the leaves to overlap too. Now, although my trees are all black at this point, and I do want to keep them pretty much black because I want it to be like a silhouette, like something in the sunset, I'm going to add a little bit of pop of color. So I'm just adding a little bit of white because I just want to give some of them a little bit of a highlight, just to add a little detail. And it doesn't have to be everywhere, just a little bit here and there. So you see, I'm not really making like any large areas of it. I'm just doing a little bit here and there. And again, with that step, you can do as much or as little as you like. You can even go back in the grass and use a little bit of your white and kind of pull some highlights inside your grass. Now, I do suggest that if yours is pretty dry down there, add some black to your brush because you don't want it to just stand out. You want it to blend in a little bit. And I'm going to do that down here as well. So again, if yours is coming out a little bit too white, you can always add a little bit of black to your brush to help it blend in a bit. But once you feel like you have enough of that, you got enough of the grass going on, the highlights in the grass, highlighting the trees, I'm going to add a few more details before we finish up. Now, if you would like to add any actual like animals or anything, it's completely up to you. I am going to add a few little birds. I kind of want to keep it just at like a safari sunset. So I'm only just adding some birds. If you want to add anything else, you can. But I'm using my smallest brush and a little bit of black paint. And I like to make a little dot and then curve 2 lines out. So almost like a really wide V. I'm going to do a little one right in front of the sun here. Curve those 2 lines out. And you can do as many or as few of these as you like. It's completely up to you. It is up to you where you put your birds. But once you are finished with that, if there's any extra details you'd like to add, remember you can add whatever you like. But the last thing you want to make sure to do is take a little bit of paint in your smallest brush and sign your name. So you can sign your initials or your signature. And once you have signed your painting, you now have your very own safari sunset. Thank you all so much for painting with me today. I hope you all have truly enjoyed yourselves. And Kishana, thank you again for requesting this painting. Oh, and one more thing. I heard that it is somebody's birthday. Happy birthday, Mo. I hope you enjoyed yourself and enjoyed this painting. And I hear Kishana has a surprise for you. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you all again. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. And I'll see you in the next tutorial.